Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Savannah Klaus, and I'm the partner manager here at Verified First that oversees our partnership with BreezyHR. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are looking forward to a very exciting discussion. You know, as we're a few weeks into the last quarter of 2023, I think it's a good opportunity to cover some research from our 2023 background screening buyer's guide with Aptitude Research and see how we can best prepare our screening practices as we approach the new year. We're very excited and happy to partner with BreezyHR today in a webinar to discuss this research and data and our screening integration within their platform. Before we dive in, we just have a few quick housekeeping items. This session is being recorded and we will be sending out a copy of that recording after the webinar. With that, we encourage you to share this recording with any team members or colleagues that you feel may benefit from what we'll be discussing today. Also, if you have any questions, we will provide contact information on the last slide so that you can reach out to Verified First. And reminder that there is a Q&A panel on the right-hand side. So as we go along, if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in and submit those to us by using the question functionality in your panel. I've allotted some time for a Q&A at the end of today's webinar, so we'll try to get to as many of those questions as we can. So as we wait for a few more people to hop in, before we get started into the thick of things, we'll do a quick introduction. I will be your speaker today. As I mentioned prior, I'm a partner manager here at Verified First, and I manage our partnership with Breezy. We've been partnered for over 3 years now, and we're so grateful for the incredible team over at BreezyHR for collaborating with us on webinars throughout each year. You know, throughout our partnership, we've covered some really great topics in the HR, talent acquisition, and background screening spaces. And I'm really excited for what we have prepared to share today. And probably the most exciting part of today's presentation is that we have Ms. Liv Carter, our Vice President of Partner Management and Marketing, joining us for our discussion. If you've ever attended our monthly thought leadership webinar series, HR at the Table, then you've probably become quite familiar with Liv. She's our shining star here at Verified First that runs the webinar series, and I'm grateful that she's joining us for today's discussion. Liv, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm so glad to be here. You know, I don't get to join these events too often. I'm typically on HR at the Table, but this research is really impactful and insightful, so I'm glad to be here.
Perfect. I'm happy you are here as well. Quick overview of today's agenda. We're going to touch on talent acquisition technology, key trends in the space, landscape challenges, talent acquisition solutions, and then at the end, I'm going to do a brief demo of our solution within Breezy's platform. Most of today's discussion is going to be on numbers 1 through 4, and then we'll touch on a quick demo and then also have time for a Q&A as well. So to get things started, it's kind of fun to start with a quick poll question on tech replacements. Technology priorities for your organization can change year over year, and sometimes it's interesting to see where priorities lie when it comes to replacing key technology, especially as we run these webinars year over year. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll right here. If you want to, I'll give it maybe 30 seconds. If you'd like to answer, you can choose one or multiple options. So what area of technology are you looking to adopt or replace within the next 3 months? ATS, CRM, background screening, I-9 and E-Verify, or maybe you're completely satisfied with your tech stack and you're not looking for any replacements. Awesome. Loving all the votes coming in. I'll give it maybe like 20 more seconds, then we'll view the results. Alrighty. All right, let's go ahead and close this out. All right, so what do we got? Oh, that's what we love to see. Just kidding. So we have actually majority are looking to replace background screening. So I would, love to guess that that's why you're here today. And we'll be definitely talking about how background screening impacts your onboarding and hiring process. So kind of related to that CRM and ATS as well, how our solution can help improve those processes. So we're happy you're joining us today. We have a lot of great data and research to cover, a lot of great insight from Liv as well. So let's go ahead and get into it here. We're going to start with tech replacement. So last year, hiring organizations found sourcing quality talent and onboarding new hires as their top tech stack replacement in 2023. So background screening plays a significant role in sourcing top quality talent and getting them screened, onboarded, and providing the best candidate experience. It's all kind of intertwined. Verified First decided to work with industry-leading analyst Madeline Laurano. She's the co-founder from Aptitude Research, to understand the current and future trends of background screening and how it can impact sourcing and onboarding within your organization. So once again, we can see that the majority of the priorities for those in the talent acquisition space lie heavily in the sourcing of candidates and the first steps within the hiring process, such as interviewing and recruitment. So Liv, I wanted to ask you, why do you think that we've seen such an increase in the need for quality sourcing and onboarding improvements in recent years, as opposed to, steps that may come later in the hiring process? It seems that, organizations are tending to struggle with those very first steps of recruitment and sourcing quality candidates. So I'm curious to know your thoughts on why we've seen that trend.
Yeah, really good question. And without going too much into the details, I mean, let's start with the phrase "war on talent," right? It's not a new phrase. It's been around for years and really fluctuates. But the reality is, the war on talent is over. Talent has won. So when you're talking about talent, you're talking about candidates. You're talking about employees, retention, right? Recruiting and retaining. Now, I would say sourcing has predominantly been the number one, like these priorities here, right? It's increased over the years, especially the COVID-19 pandemic really fast tracked that, but it's now such a competitive market. And unless you're a Google or an Amazon, so if we have a Googler or an Amazon representative in the audience, great to have you. But unless you're one of those big brands, chances are a candidate's first experience is the application, right? They see you on a job board, they see you, on LinkedIn, they see you right when they're going to apply. And so what that requires is more intentionality in where and how you source your talent, to bring in that quality talent, get them in the door. Obviously, onboarding is a huge thing as well too, especially when you're talking about technology. Your first impression is your tech stack with your candidate. If you're paper and pen, let's improve that, right? The candidates that you're recruiting today, they have these expectations for a little bit more. So to compete, this war on talent, again, it's not really, you're not competing with the talent specifically, but you're competing with other organizations, other employers. So I think that's why we see that so huge, so important these days. A lot of you organizations, I think Verified First is like this. If we get them in the door, we're very confident in our company culture and how we care for our employees. So typically it's that first step, getting them in the door, sourcing them, and then the retention can kind of come with that. But if you don't have that strong onboarding game plan, you can lose them in the first 90 days. Sorry if that was too long, Savannah, but
no, I mean, that was perfect. I appreciate your insight, and yeah, I agree. I mean, first impressions in any facet of life are, crucial, and that the more strong and confident that first impression is, you're gonna wow the candidate, and they're gonna be more apt to seek out the hiring process and like you said, maintain that retention as well. So thank you for sharing. I want to take a little bit of a deeper look to see the reason and the drive behind the tech replacement and talent acquisition priorities, with consolidating providers as being the #1 reason. For yet another year, we're seeing integrating and aligning talent acquisition tech solutions as a key finding of the Tech Buyer's Guide. Alongside this comes building a streamlined and integrated tech stack where the programs and software that you're utilizing can work seamlessly together. Developing a tech stack is pertinent to your specific organization's needs that will allow you to keep functions, within those early stages of the hiring and onboarding process centralized. That can keep your talent acquisition team running efficiently, which in turn will help improve the candidate experience. So with that research, Liv, I want to ask you, what are some of the top improvements that you've noticed organizations experience when they focus on integrating and tailoring their tech stack to their specific needs?
Yeah, good question. You hit the nail on the head when you mentioned efficiency, right? I think that's the biggest one right here. We are in the era of AI. If you're a Taylor Swift fan, that is the era that we're in, right? So if you don't have an integrated tech stack, AI is progressing significantly every day. And so while you don't necessarily need to leverage all the possibilities of AI, you should take advantage of the automation that is available today that's tried, tested, and true, which is exactly what you said, that integration piece, that customization piece. So efficiency is huge. If you have 10 platforms, consolidating them into 1, 2, or 3 through integrations makes a world of a difference. It's like having 2 passwords versus 10 passwords. Trust me, you'll save, sticky notes or whatever you use to keep track of those. Second, with that, think about your stakeholders. It's efficiency, but then it's also this experience. And when I say stakeholders, I'm talking about you and your team. So you're using the technology, you're using your solutions on a daily basis. Going back to the password thing, it's a lot easier when they're consolidated or talking to each other. You can do so much more. If you're an HR or TA leader of, team of 1, even more so, right? That automation can be your second hand, right? It can be someone to support your initiatives and your goals. And then obviously other stakeholders include your leadership, other departments. So beyond HR, beyond TA, beyond recruitment, you're talking about as you're recruiting talent for all these other departments, isn't it easier when things are connected and you can streamline the communication? So, hey, this candidate applied, we're going to take a look. It's going to notify the department leader who is hiring for that position, or, they've been approved. That makes a world of a difference. All of that automation there. Background check has been sent, so on. And then the last stakeholder that we typically, I don't want to say we forget about, but I think probably the biggest stakeholder today is the candidate. And so when your candidates have to leverage different tools to apply, or throughout the onboarding or application process, it's just not the best experience. So that's really where, if you go from integration, but then also that customization part is, can your tech stack, can your solutions be customizable to your brand, to your company, so your candidate knows, it is, in our case, verified first reaching out. It is not a scam. It is, we want to initiate your background check, or whatever the case may be. That transparent communication and brand recognition all throughout the process is huge. And that's really where I think we see the integration and customization place come together, is that experience for each of those stakeholders that I mentioned.
Yeah, no, that's really, really great insight. And thank you so much for sharing. I feel like this is like a informational webinar for me as well. I'm so happy you're here today providing us with such great insight. I want to take a deeper look into some key trends. In our research, we found that over 80% of organizations use a background screening provider. And honestly, this wasn't, the biggest shocker, right? We all know the role that background screening can play in keeping our workplaces safe. It may not be the most exciting step of the candidate onboarding experience, but it is one of the most necessary steps. Maybe you're required by your HR to screen your candidates, or maybe you work in an industry where it's necessary to screen. Regardless, the idea of screening every single candidate that you send through the hiring process and onboarding process can seem a little, not only daunting, but very time consuming as well. There's numerous background screening providers out there, but finding a provider that integrates directly within your applicant tracking system, such as our integration with Breezy, can ensure that candidate screening does not slow down your hiring process. On to that next key trend, while this year's data showed that over 80% of organizations are using a background screening provider, only 39% of those organizations, are not screening for every job. So this leaves gaps in the consistency of your organization's hiring process and can put various roles and individuals' safeties at risk, as well as the safety of your company as well. Liv, what are some of the risk factors that organizations can face when they're not consistent in screening for every role?
Yeah, this stat hurts me a bit. I'm not gonna lie. We do this research every year, and we'll have one for this research for 2024, and hopefully that number is decreasing, because there are a lot of concerns when you're not screening for every position. Now, you might screen for each position differently. Perhaps you might, run a credit check on your director of finance, right? But you might not run it for a volunteer or someone in marketing. So there are some cases like that where you might choose to distinguish the different checks that you run or the different types of screens that you run. But not screening does leave you in a vulnerable position for, there's obviously legal and compliance concerns. Depending on the industry that you're in, the state that you're in, there's concerns there. I'm not even going to try to give you a breakdown on that. But the number one concern is it coming across as discriminative. So if you are screening, Bob on the marketing team, but you're not screening Sally on the operations team, there is some concerns that Sally could, or Bob could read into that and say, why did I get screened and why did Sally not get screened, right? And that's kind of where you come into, there's especially with society today and just social, our society is complex and people are complex. So you not only from a people to people want to keep things consistent, but also just as an HR team, as referring to your legal counsel, it is better to, or it's best practice, I'll say, to screen everyone to a certain extent and not come across discriminatory there.
Yeah, exactly. It's better to, do it for all than to either do it for none or just kind of pick and choose what roles you're screening for. I think it's best to keep it, centralized across the company, regardless of department or position or, tenure with the company. I think it's important to keep it streamlined. So thank you for that.
And if I can add one more thing, the other challenge with that too is tracking who was last screened when, right? It is best practice to rescreen your employees, your volunteers, staff. And so if you are kind of inconsistent with that, just from a logistics and operations perspective, it's not the most fun. So just keep that in mind as well.
Absolutely. On to our, last key trend. Now that we understand how many organizations are screening and the efficiency of their practices, we did find that a little over 75% of HR and talent acquisition leaders feel like they are confident that they get senior support for screening. So this leads us to believe leadership understands the importance of screening, but may not be enforcing the practice as they should be. Let's move on to an internal needs analysis per se. We could go on to prove the value of background screening, but let's be a little bit more practical. We'll shift gears a little bit and talk about the how to get started or help your clients get started with screening. According to Madeline of Aptitude Research, it's important to start with an internal needs analysis. By understanding what you and your client needs, you can start with how much time it takes to achieve your current goals with your current resources that you have. How are you screening candidates? How long are the checks taking to be completed? How many people within your organization are running these screens? Are you using the same vendor for each screen that you're running? There's so many different questions you can ask. Do you have to use a different site other than your ATS to initiate a background check? These are all factors that can help you assess the efficiency of your current practices with your current allotted resources. And then how well other companies are achieving their goals today. How fast are these candidates being onboarded and cleared for employment? Are long screening processes causing organizations to lose their viable candidates? Will a candidate still be available if it takes weeks to conduct their pre-employment screening? These are all questions that you should be asking yourself and your organization with the current processes that you have in place right now. And lastly, and maybe the most importantly, is to measure the ROI on the investment. Not measuring the ROI of background screening or a screening provider's platform is one of the biggest errors an organization can make today. And they need to be able to understand the impact on the resources, time, and energy that an improved screening process can have on your organization. So Liv, again, to call on you, what are some of the measurable benefits that organizations could see from streamlining and fully integrating their screening process within their ATS?
Yeah, so just breaking down ROI real quick, right? We're looking at benefits and costs. That's essentially what we're breaking it down like real simple, right? And so when you're looking at the benefits of, let's say, switching providers so that your tech stack is integrated, the benefits could be reduce costs on ineffective solutions. So maybe your last solution had additional integration costs or fees that your company just wasn't bought in on, and your current one, it is free, and that's why you can get started with the integration. You're also looking at improved candidate experience, improved recruiter experience. Even though these don't seem like they can be measured, they can. Surveys are good friends to have nearby. Ask your recruiter their evaluation on that tech solution 10 days in, 30 days in, 60 days in, and so on. Overall productivity. This is one that I think some teams, it can be difficult, right, when you're measuring productivity. But what does that look like? How many candidates did you move through the funnel with this new investment? What was the average turnaround time or onboarding time? You could also look at, and this is just like a starting list, there's plenty. If you can measure it, it can be a cost or a benefit. Reduce costs on training, reduce time on like tickets and cases, right? Client experience. If your new solution has a better client care team and you're able to get a hold with someone on the phone or, either chat versus email or creating a case, those are things to consider. That's a benefit that will that could outweigh the costs associated.
Great, thank you for sharing. Continuing lastly on ROI, or maybe second to last, I think we have a couple more data points to touch on. 73% of companies increased their investment in talent acquisition tech in 2022, but it turns out only about 1 in 2 are measuring ROI, so about 50%. So, how are you to speak to your executive team or evaluate other providers when you don't know where you currently stand with your current providers? if you can't identify whether your investments are improving or hurting your current processes, you won't be able to identify where those improvements need to be made. Having measurable focal points of your hiring process that you continually monitor to help you understand where you will need to evaluate and improve. So Liv, if only 50% of organizations are measuring, ROI on new vendors or their current processes, why do you think this is, and what questions can organizations ask to begin calculating ROI and begin to understand, how these improvements are affecting their organization?
Yeah, so this is another stat that hurts me a bit. That 50%, it's like, if you're investing in this new, solution or this new tech platform and you're not calculating the ROI, it is going to be very hard to build the business case for future solutions to future platforms, unless again, you're an Amazon or a Google and maybe you have a little bit more wiggle room there in your budget, but most of us don't. So measuring ROI is so huge. I think probably the reason why that 50% don't, or in this case, it can be daunting. Like, where do you start? And as I mentioned, some of those benefits that you can measure, it does take some work to figure out like how you measure that. And consistency is key there. So it can definitely come across daunting, but the biggest thing is starting small. So start with what you know you can measure. If you can measure your recruiter's experience, for example, and it is, you're taking their feelings and their emotions and drilling it down to a scale of 1 to 10, start small. That's okay, right? This is how they feel about the existing solution. Here's what we're proposing. We're expecting this, set some goals. That's huge. And then measure the ROI there. As I mentioned, the benefits, you also have to measure the cost, right? So cost could be kind of the obvious one is the cost of the new platform or the new screening provider in our case, right, today. Do they have integration costs, setup costs, training costs? You'll be amazed at what some solutions will cost these days, or what they'll put a dollar sign on. So consider those costs. Also consider time. Time is a cost, right? Time is money. So those are some of the things to consider: implementation, labor, IT support, whatever you might need to make that happen. And then you're comparing the two. Do the benefits outweigh the costs? The biggest thing with the why on calculating ROI, leadership. Savannah, you mentioned it, like communicating to leadership. We had an HR at the table webinar like a little over a year ago with Chris Cornine from MSI, and he emphasized your leadership wants dollars and cents, right? Yes, they care about the people. Yes, they care about company culture. Yes, they care, they care about all these things. But at the end of the day, for the business to continue, it comes down to dollars and cents. Is the organization, is the company profitable enough to support your team, support, hire more people, invest in technology, continue this thriving culture? And if it's not profitable, unfortunately, you have people losing jobs, right? And that's the opposite of what most leaders want. So calculating ROI, breaking it down to dollars and cents, that's their like work appreciation language, you could say, maybe. It just makes sense. So that's where I would suggest starting small and asking those questions: what can I measure today? What would I like to measure in the future? And then work with other departments and teams, and see if you can work with them to measure additional data points as well.
Yeah, I think collaboration is huge between departments. It helps you understand, how other departments, how their decisions, how their goals, their KPIs, what they can measure directly influence the departments around them. So I think that's collaboration is one of the biggest things, I think, in my opinion. Lastly, before we kind of get into wrapping up today's content, before we talk about, our solution, despite only 50% of organizations measuring the ROI of their investment, the true challenge revealed in this year's research was the challenge of integration. So there are a plethora of hiring platforms out there. We integrate with over 130 of them. There's so many options, and having them integrate with your screening solution is key. I mean, it's understandable that background screening can tack on additional time to the hiring process. You don't want to have to be going to multiple different sites, opening multiple different windows, different vendors, or even, having to go to a different website to view those completed reports for your candidates. Choosing a solution that fully integrates with your ATS is completely centralized and works for your organization will help relieve, dare I say, the headache that could come along with the screening process. Moving into some key considerations, with that challenge in mind, let's, discuss some considerations that will help you, your organization, and your clients evaluate or adapt to a screening solution. So first, we want to identify the requirements and communicate them to the vendor. Do you need certain integrations, certain screens, or a certain level of client care? What do your customers need? What are your biggest struggles in your current process? Whatever you need, make sure to identify these with the vendor you're evaluating and communicate it. They're supposed to be there for you at every step of the way in this partnership per se, which leads me to, secondly, invest in not only a vendor, but someone who will be a partner with you. Don't look for another just solution or provider. Look for someone that's going to, foster that partnership with you, a vendor who truly values, your relationship and that they have with their customers, and will ensure that they are giving you the best customer experience every time. Partnerships are there to mutually benefit each other, and you want a vendor who aligns with that mentality and who's going to provide you the best customer care. And lastly, build a comprehensive plan. That means ask all the questions, loop in all the necessary stakeholders, and come up with a reevaluation plan on a specific timeline, whether it's 6 months, 1 year, 5 years from now. You want a provider that will evolve and adapt alongside your organization's needs. If you select a vendor that sees you as a partner instead of just solely let's say, a provider of services to you, you should have, the support you need to make that happen without, eating and consuming all your resources. And kind of touching on that partnership dynamic between yourself and, those vendors that you integrate with. Liv, what are some of the core differences between a vendor relationship versus a partner-centered relationship, per se?
Yeah, good question. There could be a long list with this one. But just to break it down, honestly, it's their approach, it's your experience, and then their investment. So their approach to engaging with you, is it they're just trying to sell you on a new solution? Are they asking you the right questions to get to know your organization and your goals? That approach alone can be a huge differentiator between a partner and a vendor. The experience and the investment is, are they innovative? Are they going to grow with you? So are they going to invest in your organization just as much as you're investing in them, right? Switching solutions, whether it's tech-based, whether it's, I mean, just as humans, we don't like change, right? Like I'm thinking about changing out my Christmas tree this year, and it's like this whole ordeal, like, it's things like that. It's the same with your screening provider, and again, any other tech solutions. There can be that hesitancy, and are they willing to step in and say, hey, I understand your goals. This is the direction you want to go. I want to get you there. We want to walk with you there or run with you. We want to go at your pace. Innovation's huge just in the HR tech space, just to be very frank about it. If they are not investing in, new new features, new products, new solutions, then they are acting more of a vendor than a partner. A partner is going to want to take their clients to the next level. So those are a couple things. The last thing I'd note is the client care. It's a
Yeah.
huge indicator, right? If you can't get a hold of someone and you're left with a case tool, to submit cases to, or you're left with a chat bot and you can't actually talk to a human, as great as AI and chatbots, I use them all the time. They're great, but there is that human element that will always come full circle and always be important at the end of the day. So those are a couple of things, but you mentioned, Savannah, like ask all the questions, and if
Yeah.
they aren't willing to answer those questions or they get frustrated answering those questions, they're probably more of a vendor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I agree with you on the what you touched on about that human aspect. I mean, AI is advancing so much every day, and yes, like chat functions are great. Automated answers are great for those quick, very baseline answers, but there's truly nothing that can replicate that human to human interaction and that human centered, human tailored approach to customer care. And I'm very, very proud of Verified First approach in that. I mean, it translates to our 98% client satisfaction rating. Like, you just can't beat that, really tailored customer care where you're going to get, and if you need to, you can, utilize our chat functions, those AI, or utilize a real person, but leaving that option up to the individual is huge in making sure that they get the client care that's tailored to their specific needs. So thank you for sharing that. This leads us to kind of our wraparound. So, if you leave with anything from today's presentation, let it be that background screening should be a strategic initiative and not a tactical activity. You, your organization, and your clients should see screening as more than just a task to check off. At least that's what the pros say. I wouldn't say that's me, but that's what the pros say. It shouldn't just be it shouldn't be just a task that you're obligated to do. It should be a strategic initiative that helps protect you and your organization and your candidates and your employees. So use your screening process as an initiative to protect them. And then when integrated intentionally, your screening processes should help alleviate stress from your onboarding process and not add to it. And that's the goal with our integration with Breezy. And maybe I'm biased, but I think we do a pretty good job at it, which brings me into, I want to touch on a few quick benefits of our solution before I hop into the actual demo. I know I want to leave at least 10 minutes for a Q&A, so this next portion of today's webinar is going to go by super quick. So we see here, one of the best, most highly spoken of benefits of our solution is our texting capabilities. So we have the ability to initiate background screens with candidates via SMS texting capabilities. And when companies use texting as their primary form of communication, 69% had improved their first year retention, and then about 70% had reduced their time to hire. In our internal research that we've done, we've seen that the texting feature within our integration can decrease that turnaround time of initiating a background screen by about 8 hours. So if you think about it, everyone, as much as we don't want to admit it, has their phone on them probably at all times, if not most of the time. It's a lot more accessible than a laptop or a desktop per se. So having that capability really helps reduce those turnaround times. Quickly about our integration, there's no integration fees associated with our extension browser integration. I'll show you in the demo real quick. You can connect within less than 15 seconds and never have to leave your HR solution. We have no long-term contracts or monthly annual minimum screen requirements, so you're not obligated to screen a certain amount of employees or run a certain amount of screens. You're truly just paying for what you're using. You're not paying for software. You're not paying for an integration, which can help. We touched on the money aspect of running a business and calculating the ROI, and we really value ourselves in keeping additional costs as low as possible as well. And then briefly, built-in compliance. We are PBSA accredited, SOC 2 certified. We value our compliance, and we want to make sure we're compliant in every industry and state and county, and we really pride ourselves on that as well. Let's get into, if you want to just give me a second, I'm going to open up Breezy's platform here, and I will go through a quick demo as well. I'll show you how to download the extension, and then we'll get into our Q&A section. So Liv, I'll use you as my eyes. Can you see my screen? And I'm on Google.
Yeah, you're great.
Perfect. Awesome. So you can download this on a few different platforms. I am a Chrome girl, so I always demo it on Chrome as well. But what you're going to do is go to the Chrome web store, and you're going to type in Verified First. And it's going to be the first thing that comes up. You're going to click on it, and then you'll see in this top right corner, mine says remove from Chrome because I do already have it installed, but it'll say add to Chrome, and then it's going to pop up here under this puzzle piece as well. So you have the option to pin it so that it's always there in the corner. You can open it at any given time on any browser window, not just within Breezy. And once you add it to your Chrome, you'll click on it, and it's one more click to allow user permissions, and you are set. Once you log into Breezy, you will see the button within the candidate's profile, which takes me over to Breezy. Here I am in my dashboard. I'll go to view my candidates. I just made a new one, and just a disclaimer, this is our testing environment, so none of this data is for real people. Hank is our testing guy. He's not real, unfortunately, as much as we would like him to be. Here we are in Hank's profile, and you'll see the screen with Verified First button, and you're going to go ahead and place new order, and you'll see it pop up here kind of in a little quarter screen. So you're still in Hank's profile, you're still within Breezy, but now our integration pops up. Your account name will be here. We have the ability to customize your screening packages based on positions. So whether it's different departments, if one department, let's say, is driving a company vehicle, you'll want to run, a motor vehicle report on them, but you won't necessarily need to run it on someone else. So you can customize your packages based on position or your own specific packages to your organization, whether it's new hire, onboarding package, etc. You can also create those packages as well. Additionally, if you choose, you can also order a la carte as well. So we have over 100 different screens that we have the capability of running. You'll see them here all on the left-hand side in this pop-out. I'm going to click a drug panel so I can show you our function within the integration, but you can also just order as is for your organization's needs. Go ahead and close that. And then another function you will see is all of the data that's in the candidate's profile will transfer over to the ordering portal. This Hank mess that I created, I did not give him a middle name. That's why it didn't pop over. That was on me. But you'll see the email, phone number, and state of employment all scrapes over from Hank's profile. From here, you have two options. The most common option is to send the invite then from this point on to the candidate. So I'm going to click send invite. From here, you're going to get a pop-up if you have ordered background screens, a screen on the candidate within the last 90 days. This is just kind of a checks and balancing to make sure multiple people within your hiring team aren't running screens on a person over and over again, saving you not only time but also money for your organization. Make sure you're not duplicating any screening processes. So I'm just going to acknowledge that I've screened on him in the last 90 days. And then you can choose to either auto order or manually order your screening package once the candidate completes their portion. So I'm going to auto, and then I chose a drug test, so that's why it's asking me for the reason, and I'm going to choose pre-employment. From here, you have the option to either email or text the candidate the link to complete their portion of the background screen. You don't have to do both. You can do one or the other. Whatever information's in the candidate's profile will auto-populate in these fields right here. And then you also have the option to include the list of ordered products to the candidate as well, if you would like to inform them of exactly what screens you're running on them. And then from here, you would send the invitation. This is going to send a link to the candidate to complete their portion. So to fill out their PII, so their social, their date of birth, their address, to choose the location where they want to go complete their drug screen if you are, conducting a drug test on them. When it comes to their email, they'll be able to open up on their browser. All of their electronic authorization forms will be there as well. They'll be able to sign electronically. When it's sent via text, the link that they'll click on that, it is mobile friendly. So they won't be, having to zoom out to view and read what they're supposed to be filling out or signing with their finger. It will be mobile friendly as well. And then, as we indicated earlier, once they complete their portion, you can choose to either auto order it. It'll automatically kick off those screens, or you'll get notified via email that they've completed it, and then you can go into their profile and complete the order of the background screen. Here as well, I'll just show you real quick within a couple minutes of what it would look like if you had all the information. So I will enter in a fake social. At least I hope this is a fake social. I don't think anyone has this, but you never know. Date of birth. And then I'll enter in a zip code for Hank as well. So let's say he lives in Houston, and that's where we want to look for testing sites for his drug test. Oops, I need a address for him. I didn't put one in his profile, so that's why it didn't populate over. Okay, let's try this. Sorry. Awesome. Okay, cool. This is not a real test, so I don't think it matters if the county was correct. But again, you'll see these this indication that we've ordered screens on him in the last 90 days, and you'll be able to view all the reports that have been conducted. So as you can see, we test on Hank a lot. It's just another checks and balance to make sure you're not running duplicate screens. And here's where you can order the drug panel test within the screening portal as well. So you can choose a certain radius, zip code of residency, or where the candidate is located, and then you have the option to find collection sites, and it's going to show you the hours of operations, how far it is, and you can indicate where you would like, or either whether the candidate would like to go get tested, or if your organization has a specific location that you'd like them to go to, you can indicate that as well. And then you can also indicate an expiration date and time. So whether your organization gives a candidate 48 hours to go, or 5 days, or a week, you can indicate that as well. And go to the next, and you'll have a quick review. And then if you've collected authorization forms prior, this is where you're able to upload any files. So any copies of identifications, authorizations to run background checks. So, and then you can submit the order. So this is a bit more detailed process, but the most commonly used function is to just send the invite to the candidate. They complete everything on their end. It automatically kicks it back and initiates the background screen. So once I submit the order, you will see that this button where we press to start the order now says file processing. And then it's going to say report pending when our team is working on it. And then once all of the results come back from the screens that you ordered, it's going to say report completed. You'll be able to hover over it and view this drop down and view the report right there, right in the same way in which you ordered the screen. And there's a, once it loads, there's a drop down to view it and or download it and print it as a PDF. So you'll be able to see if any adverse actions come through it, what the report pulled, all the data. And then you can also tailor, who within the portal has user permissions to view this information as well. And that's it. It's pretty simple, straightforward. There's a few options, just depending on what your hiring process looks like, whether you have all the information and you want to initiate it all, or you leave it up to the candidate. That's really can be tailored to your specific hiring process. And the best part about it is you never have to leave Breezy's platform. You can do it all within the platform and it all comes back to you. You're not opening up new windows or new websites. Let me see here. As I get back to the presentation deck, if you have any questions that have came up from while we were chatting and while I was going through the demo, please feel free to put them in the question function. I'm getting my screen set up to our contact page, and there we are. On here we have, my contact information. You have our website, and then also our partner @. So that's the general email alias that's going to come to myself and the rest of the partner team as well. So if you have any additional questions from today that come up after the fact, please feel free to reach out to me or the team. I'm going to go ahead and open up the question function here and see what questions we have. Oh, and we do have a few. Yay, I love it. All right, first question. Does VF allow candidates to record 7+ years residency and employment? Good question. Liv, do you want to take that away?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can do my best to answer that one. So it's a unique one, but great question. I like the way you're thinking. So verifications, with residency verifications, a candidate can include multiple addresses or previous addresses. Same with employment verifications, it includes previous and or current employers. But specifically for employment verifications, we do have a functionality that can require a mix or a max of previous employers or a minimum too of previous years of employment. So that is adjustable, but either way, yes, you can collect as much as you would like, employment or residency. I hope that answered your question. Great question.
Yeah, great question. Another one we have kind of a two-part. What does a basic background screen include, or to put another way, what are the most common screens you would say?
Yeah, so this is also a good question. It's going to be dependent to your organization and your needs, right? So depending on what position or role you're hiring for, you might have different screens. I would say some common ones are like, nationwide criminal search, social security, address trace, nationwide sex offender. Those are some of the most common ones. Our team can kind of help package the right solutions for your organization and then also for your different roles. So as I mentioned kind of earlier, if you're hiring a manager in finance or director in finance, you're probably going to want that credit check. It's best practice in certain roles to build off of that basic screening.
Perfect. Thank you, Liv. Let's see here. We have a couple more. Is the cost listed somewhere? I can touch on this a little bit, and Liv, please feel free to elaborate. Cost is going to differ. It's kind of a not muddy subject per se, but it's going to differ because you're running different searches in different states and different counties, and each state and county has their own processing fee. So, and let's say the difference in Florida's processing fees versus the state of New York or California, like they're going to differ vastly. So it really depends on the location in which the candidate is, you're conducting the screens for the candidate under, how many screens you're doing, how many screens within a package you're doing or ordering at a time. So it can vary greatly. I will say with Verified First, just being in and around, our sales team and our partner management team, cost is never really a factor that we let get in the way of being able to service our clients. I've seen that firsthand, and I've heard that in discussions. It's never something we want to come in the way of us being able to provide a seamless service for our clients as well. So we're very competitive on our pricing. It's right in line with some of our top competitors, and I'm confident that our team will do what they can to work with our customers to offer them the best price and solution for the organization's needs. Liv, please feel free to touch on any aspect of that if I missed any part, but
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
basically it. The thing that I would add is the integration is free. And we're
yeah,
seeing that becoming less common in this space, but our extension integration, it's free. We don't charge you to download it. We don't charge you monthly on whether you're using the screening services or not. So it is really, you pay for what you use.
yeah, exactly. All right, it looks like we have 2 more questions, which is perfect. We're running right on schedule. I love this. With VF, does this also work for international background checks and or employment verifications?
Yeah, and it looks like the second question is also international. So that's awesome to hear that there's some global organizations in the audience. Savannah, do you mind if I answer this one?
Yeah, please take it away.
Uh, yes, so Verified First does offer a wide range of international searches. I wish I had a list, in my brain, but I don't. So the best way is for us to kind of do an audit and understand what you're currently screening or what you're looking to screen and the locations, and then our team can kind of build a package or solution for you. But yes, we do offer that, and the integration works around the world as well. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Liv. All right, that looks like those are our last questions that we have. As always, our contact information is on the page. So let's say we hop off today's webinar and you're like, oh wait, I have another question. Please feel free to reach out. I do encourage you to fill out, once I end the webinar, we will have a post-webinar survey that'll ask you if you want more information about Verified First, or if you're attending today and you're not currently using Breezy, or you want additional information on the different plans that Breezy offers. There will be a question if you want to learn more about Breezy. So we will make sure to get that over to the team at BreezyHR. But I wanted to thank everyone so much for joining today. And if you have any additional questions, please reach out. And Liv, huge thank you to you. You added so much value to today's webinar, and I always appreciate your insight and your help here at Verified First. So thank you so much again for joining me today.
Yeah, happy to.
Awesome, perfect. I hope everyone has a great day, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.